Okay, you can go ahead with your opening remarks.
First of all, thank you all for letting me come. My name is Mandyrmitage. I have a husband named Jeff over here in the audience. We have 5 beautiful kids, ages 19 all the way to 1. I have been in this field, or death scene investigation type field, for 12 years. I grew up in this business, went to my first autopsy when I was 12 years old. I really, really enjoy what I do. I was Brad Cole's deputy for the last 3 years. I was appointed back in December when Brad got voted in as our new sheriff, and I would really appreciate your vote August 2nd.
All right, let's kick off with some questions for you. In the Headliner News Voters Guide, you mentioned many attributes that you bring to the table. Out of those, what do you think is the most important attribute a coroner should have?
Well, again, I have very, very extensive training with death in a forensic type situation. I've seen natural deaths, homicides, suicides, being able to just see those victims in that setting and be able to determine more or less if it is self-inflicted gunshot wounds, or is it a homicide, or just different circumstances that surround. With 12 years of being in that setting, we deal with about 200 cases a year, and so I have seen a lot. I have been able to save the county quite a bit of money with my experience, just being able to determine the cause, manner of death as the coroner.
Okay, in the Voters Guide, your opponent said he thinks there is a conflict of interest with the current coroner using a forensic firm she's directly associated with. We would like to give you an opportunity to explain your side.
I thank you for that. That had been brought up to me by my opponent earlier in the year, and so I did go to the county commissioners and ask them to please put out a bid for forensic autopsies, toxicology, etc. So I also advised them that I did not want to be a part of that process, because I do not want to by any means take advantage of my county in any way. So the county did put out a bid. I did stay out of that process, and they did make a contract with Southwest Missouri Forensics. I am not hiring a family member to do those services. I am hiring a corporation. That corporation is in Christian County, so that money does stay here. I have spent year-to-date $6,300 for 2016 out of a $34,000 budget.
Okay, speaking of budgets, how large is the Christian County Coroner's budget? Actually, you just said that. And what experience do you have in making and following that said budget?
Well, back to the budget. Back, I think 2012-ish, the budget was around $50,000. In 2011, almost $40,000 of that was used for autopsy expenses, toxicology, external examinations, etc. That budget has now gone down from 50 to 34. So I think that does show that, Brad Cole, of course, did the last 3 years, so he brought the budget down by the cases that we were doing.
Okay, we'll ask an audience question for you now. While serving as coroner, have you ever shredded any information belonging to the Christian County Coroner's Office?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Okay. If elected, how will you balance the duties of the coroner's office with your day job?
I've been doing that for almost 4 years now. The county coroner's office does not suffer by any means with my daily job. I have been, if I'm not on every call, my deputy coroner is there. We do not miss going to a death scene and investigating any of those. So it has not suffered, and it will not suffer.
As coroner, your job is to determine when an autopsy is needed. Obviously, you want to be responsible with tax dollars. Please explain how you determine when an autopsy is needed.
When an autopsy is needed, obviously if we have a person who has passed away and they have no medical history, no health history, no family history, no drug abuse, no obvious causes of death, then an autopsy would be needed. If the things that I just mentioned are available at the scene, sometimes toxicology can take care of what we need to determine the cause of death. And I forgot what the rest of that was.
It was just when should an autopsy be
Okay.
needed?
In suicide type cases, not all of those are clear cut and dry, so sometimes those do require an autopsy as well. Obviously, if we have a homicide, that's pretty much a given because we do not want to miss anything for a defense attorney to, question in court why we didn't have one of those. So homicides will always pretty much have an autopsy.
If there are no more audience questions, you can find other questions that Mrs. Armitage has already answered in our voter's guide. And also Mr. Ensign as well, even though he's not here tonight. I would give you an opportunity to ask your opponent a question, but he's not here. So at this point, we will say that you can have your closing remarks, and we'll go from there.
Again, I thank you guys all again for coming. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to come up and ask me later. You can always find me on Facebook, send me an email at marmitage@christiancountymo.gov. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, I love what I do. Giving families closure is a huge, huge thing for me. And being able to do that is just a blessing. So I thank you again for your vote on August 2nd.